Hello and welcome to Thick Talks, where today's topic will be Super Smash Bros. Brawl and how it was a competitive failure, but a casual success. Now before we talk about Brawl, we need to go back in time to 2001 and talk about Melee, the game that preceded it. Super Smash Bros. Melee was released in 2001 for the Nintendo GameCube and was a huge hit. This game was released soon after its predecessor, Super Smash Bros., which released in 1999 for the Nintendo 64. And in many ways, Melee was better than Smash 64. The graphics improved, the stages improved, and the roster expanded, with many characters that became mainstays for future games in the series. Its popularity also showed at its sale numbers. Super Smash Bros. Melee sold 7.41 million copies, making it the most popular game on the Nintendo GameCube. But along with its casual success, selling millions of copies across all demographics, it was also a massive competitive triumph. When this game first came out, tournaments started popping up all over the country, and many people attended to see who could be the best player of Melee. Now keep in mind, this was an era before esports were well known in pop culture, so stuff like this happening was not commonplace back then. But even with competitive tournaments not being common back then, these events still drew in many people. So we have a new Smash Bros. Game, with great controls, good graphics compared to the previous game, and a solid character roster. Plus, a competitive scene that is quickly spreading around the globe, making this game a household name. With all this considered, the Super Smash Bros. Community was thriving, and there was no end in sight. Then at E3 2005, Satoru Iwata hinted at there being a new Smash Bros. Game for the Nintendo Wii, Nintendo's newest console. And at E3 2006, we got our first trailer for the newest Super Smash Bros. Installment, Super Smash Bros. Brawl.
After E3 2006, Super Smash Bros. Brawl was finally released to the public in early 2008. After the success of Melee, many Smash Bros. Fans were excited to see their first new game in 7 years. The day Brawl released had over 800,000 sales, and the following week totaled at 1.4 million. At first, Brawl seemed like a success, but soon after its release, people began to realize its differences between Melee. One of the first major differences that was criticized was random tripping. Whenever a character started to run, there would be an about 1% chance that they would trip and not be able to input any moves for a small amount of time. Another feature that was different between Brawl and Melee was wave dashing. To wave dash in Melee, you would jump, and right before you hit the ground, you would input an air dodge, causing you to get a burst of speed the way you were facing. But in Brawl, wave dashing was removed because of the way the physics work. But there is one final major difference between Melee and Brawl. First, Melee was a very fast game where you'd have to input many moves in a short amount of time to get the edge over your opponent. But on the other hand, Brawl was just a slow and clunky game in general, making it very hard to hit combos, including a low hit stun. All of those factors made Brawl a not very competitively viable game. This made many Melee players angry and not want to switch over to Nintendo's newest Smash Bros. Game. This caused a split in the community. Many people wanted to stay with Melee, but also lots of people wanted to play Brawl. But there was one more thing that finally split the community in two. But with the new game came an updated roster with characters such as Wario, Sonic, and Snake. But there is one character that many people to this day describe as the most overpowered character in Super Smash Bros. History. This character was of course Meta Knight. Meta Knight had numerous advantages over many other characters. One of those being most of his moves having low startup and end lag. Also, many of his moves had priority, meaning when colliding with another hitbox, he would usually hit first. He also had good edge guarding and combos, but above all, the most overpowered thing about Meta Knight was his recovery. To recover, Meta Knight can use his multiple jumps combined with any one of his specials to get back to the stage. Meta Knight's up B can also abuse a new feature in Brawl, gliding. There are a few characters in Brawl that can glide, such as Charizard or Pit. When Meta Knight is gliding, you can glide from one blast zone to the other under the stage. Also, his name Meta Knight was fitting. The whole meta of Brawl was based around Meta Knight. Either you used Meta Knight or you used a character to counter Meta Knight. And that is why Brawl is a competitive failure.
Now we need to talk about why Super Smash Bros. Brawl was a casual success. Now, one reason it was such a huge hit for casual gamers is because it was on the Wii. The Nintendo Wii sold over 100 million consoles, making it Nintendo's most successful home console of all time. So of course a Smash Bros. Game was going to do amazing on it. Super Smash Bros. Brawl sold 13.3 million copies, making it the 8th highest selling Wii game of all time, placing it firmly above Super Mario Galaxy. And not only did it do well sales-wise, but review-wise it did spectacular, with almost perfect reviews across the board. Another big draw-in for most gamers was the online aspect. The Wii was one of Nintendo's first consoles to feature online, and with it only working on a handful of games, Super Smash Bros. Brawl was one of them. This was one of the main reasons that some people bought the game, for the online aspect, and while it wasn't amazing, it was still a great inclusion for the series. The larger roster was also a reason that people bought the game, with one character in particular changing the concept of what it meant to be revealed as a Smash Bros. Character. When Sonic was revealed for Super Smash Bros. Brawl, people went crazy because it was Mario's biggest enemy in a Nintendo game. So after he was added, the idea of a character being added to Smash Bros. Was so much more broad than just being in a Nintendo game. Another character who demonstrated that was Snake, a character you would never expected to see in a Smash Bros. Game, but here he was. So now the Smash community was buzzing over which characters would be added in future installments. So while many people don't like Brawl, it has to be given credit for what it did for the Smash Bros. Franchise. It brought many new fans into the fandom, which helped Super Smash Bros. For Wii U be a relatively large success, even though it was on one of Nintendo's worst-selling consoles of all time. So after Super Smash Bros. Brawl and Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, the Smash community was booming, and the next game was bound to be a huge hit. And when Super Smash Bros. Ultimate released for the Nintendo Switch in 2018, it was a huge hit. Currently, it's the second highest selling Nintendo Switch game of all time, with over 18 million sales. Plus, Brawl added many new things to the series that later became mainstays, such as Final Smashes and new characters such as Sonic, Wario, and Meta Knight. So not only was Brawl a casual success, but it made the community much larger than it ever was when Melee was around. So even though Super Smash Bros. Brawl was a competitive failure, it was a casual success and deserves to go down in history as one of the greatest Wii games of all time.